Okay. I'm seeing a way too many Jennifers to justify not watching it.
What makes the case of Jennifer Pan unique among others
I'm gonna go
in
to the
true
bathroom.
crime
Be
genre
right back.
is the overabundance of raw footage freely available in the public domain. There is over 11 hours of material that not only recounts her entire life in meticulous detail, but gives us considerable insight into her psychopathological state. Jennifer herself will narrate her own story in this video, which is the reason the following lead-up segment will be condensed, as a brief outline is all that is needed before delving into the extraordinary mind of this individual. Jennifer was born in Markham, Ontario, where she was raised with her older brother in a middle-class household. Her parents, Beek and Han, were originally from Vietnam, and their method of parenting was strict. Very strict. What some might even class as authoritarian. Success and achievement from their children were seen as outright obligations, whether it be in academics or extracurricular activity, and some might argue these expectations took precedence over the well-being of the children themselves. Jennifer initially took the imposed pressure in her stride and put everything she had into figure skating. She had exceptional talent, and at one point was expected to compete in the Winter Olympics, but she suffered a serious knee injury at the age of 14 and was told she could no longer compete. Her dreams were cut short, but of more concern was that her parents' expectations now had to be met through the more traditional route of education. And the issue was that Jennifer wasn't anywhere near as academically gifted as she was athletic. She was averaging a C- when her parents wanted straight A's. So rather than communicate with them, she decided to meet their expectations under false pretenses and began faking her test results. This led to her faking her end-of-year report cards, which eventually led to her faking a high school diploma, and then a university acceptance letter to study pharmacology. In the abstract world of her parents, Jennifer was on her way to a noble and well-paid career in medical health care, when in reality, she was a high school dropout living with her drug dealer boyfriend, whom she had been dating in secret for almost 8 years.
Oh,
She
wow.
was eventually found out in 2010 when her parents discovered she had been living a double life, and was then given an ultimatum.
Took my hoodie off,
At
by the way.
24 years old, she
Too
had to
hot.
choose between one of two options. Option one was that she had to live at home under a strict regime, cease all contact with her boyfriend, and only leave the house to go back to school and pursue an education. Option two was that she could do whatever she wanted, but she would then be disowned from her family. She could never return home, and all financial support would cease immediately.
That's
Jennifer
awful.
evidently decided neither option would suffice, so she created option number 3. She had her boyfriend arrange a mock home invasion, where 3 of his acquaintances would enter the Pan household and stage a robbery gone wrong. The 2 instructions were to first ransack the home and then murder the parents. The planned date was Monday the 8th of November, with the scheduled time being roughly 11 p.m. Jennifer would unlock the front door, and 3 figures were caught on a neighbor's surveillance camera entering the home at 11:05. They were then seen running out just under 18
How is this a
minutes
good
later.
option?
It
I'm
was
so
at that
confused.
exact time 911 received a call from the same household.
Where are you, ma'am? Please just go home. I don't know my parents are. Ma'am, calm down. What? Some people broke into our house. Okay, to show us all his money. Okay, ma'am, where are you? What? Avenue. Avenue Road. Yes. Can you spell the street name for me, please? Dad? No, you're calling us. Ma'am. Hello? Hello? Yes? Ma'am, I need to know your address. Avenue Road, can you please spell? In Helen Avenue, my dad just went outside screaming. Ma'am, can you spell the street address for me, please? H-E-L-E-N. Someone broke in and I heard shots like pops.
I don't like that.
I'm tied upstairs.
Beek Pan was shot twice, once in the neck and once in the head. She was killed immediately. The father, Han, was also shot twice, once in the shoulder and once in the face. He astonishingly survived and was put into an induced coma once he arrived at the hospital. Jennifer was taken to the same hospital as a precaution, but was soon cleared of injury. She sat by her father's bedside for roughly 3 hours before she was taken to the Markham police station to give a statement as a witness.
I want to go through a form with you. It may seem kind of, why you're doing this, but this is it's like you're swearing to tell the truth about what you're going to talk to me about, and it's also going to explain to you the.
Is he mansplaining Miranda rights right now?
For not telling the truth. I don't expect you to help me, but for a homicide investigation, anyone who's very close to the investigation, we do this with.
So, you know, at the end of the Miranda rights, when you read it out loud and you ask the person if they understand, and you know there's an option to say no, I don't. That's usually when add good timing. Good timing for you to pause on. That was instinct. She's not a suspect yet. Okay, but in an interview, whenever a police officer interviews you, they always read you Miranda rights. Oh, this is in Canada? Oh. Oops. I didn't hear that part, sorry. Never mind.
To you the penalties for not telling the truth. I don't expect you to help me, but for a homicide investigation, anyone who's very close to the investigation, we do this with. Okay? So this isn't suspecting that you're not going to tell the truth. This is more of a feature that you understand the importance of telling the complete truth.
Jennifer is not a suspect at this moment. She is only giving a voluntary statement under oath. She has not read her right to silence, but instead informed of her rights as a witness. She is basically told that fabricating evidence with the intent to mislead is an offense. After reading the notification off paper, the detective gives Jennifer a more human explanation of the instruction.
What I've just explained to you is you're here voluntarily to help us. That you don't have to talk to us if you don't want to, but the importance of talking to us, and if you're talking to us, the importance of telling the truth. And if you don't tell the truth, there's criminal consequences for not telling the truth.
True.
That's all that stuff had to deal with. Okay?
The investigator then leaves to get the Commissioner of Oaths, which is for the purpose of swearing in the witness, but he first brings in a box of Kleenex. This is universally recognized as getting startled, yet the official term in neurophysiology is the startle reflex via auditory stimulus. Hyperarousal from a traumatic event can often exaggerate this response in a manner similar to how Jennifer reacted to the sound of the door.
Hello, my name is Andrew Laspiro. I'm a Commissioner of Oaths with York Regional Police. I'm here so you can give a
scary
truthful
smart.
statement either by solemn affirmation or swearing on the Bible. Which
do you
prefer?
Swearing on the Bible?
Just put your hand on the Bible. Do you, Jennifer Pan, swear
Well,
that
wouldn't
the
that be
evidence
cool
you
to have
shall
an
give on
option?
this investigation shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Once Jennifer is sworn in, the lead investigator returns to collect the statement.
Now I want you to sort of take yourself back to earlier on today, yesterday, meaning the 8th of November, and tell me about your day. Okay, start at any point in time.
What if you're not religious?
Wherever you feel comfortable.
You don't have to.
And then we're gonna move. We're gonna
And
move forward.
swear differently. It's more of an, there's an ability to now to not use the Bible.
Probably around
It used to not be.
Morning.
This is Canada, so I don't know how Canada's laws are, but in America it used to
My
have to do the
mother,
Bible, but they've made it to where people
she
can do
woke me
like
up
whatever
and
they
she told me that
prefer.
She was going to visit my grandfather.
Throughout
I
the
think.
day, Jennifer explains that she practiced piano, studied piano history, talked on the phone with her friends, and had dinner with her parents. Her mother left for line dancing at 8 p.m. and returned home at about 9:30, at which time Jennifer was
Yeah, this
alone
is
in
in
her
Ontario,
room watching
Canada.
TV, ready to go to sleep.
And then suddenly I just heard my mom calling for my dad to come down. And that's when I lowered the volume on my TV. And I could hear the voices weren't any voices I was very familiar with. And so I was scared and I couldn't move. I just sat in my room for a while. And then I thought I heard them all leave the top floor, and I peered out of my bedroom door. And a guy was there, and he came at me and had string in his hands and tied my arms back and said, "I have a gun behind your back. Do what I say. If you do what I say, then no one will get hurt. Where is the money? Show me where your money is." my mom kept trying to get up, and they kept telling her, sit down, and so I didn't want her to get hurt, so I told her, Mom, sit down. They were trying to find her wallet, but her English isn't good, so she kept saying purse. They kept pushing her down onto the chair.
Okay. Take your time. Take your time. All this is very important, so take your time.
Jennifer's nonverbal communication up to this point has made sense, and the reflection of her mother's last moments seems to push her over the edge. It could be assumed the detective still considers Jennifer a victim at this moment, but in the next moment, he will start becoming suspicious.
They kept all the lights off on the main floor. The only time there was light
How would she know that?
was when they opened the fridge door to see if they could find where my mom's purse was.
Take yourself back to a moment in your life when you have been overwhelmingly upset about something.
You wouldn't remember
and at the
that.
same time, were trying to explain to someone
You would
why
not
you
remember
were
that.
upset. You wouldn't quietly and reservedly convey the events. You would likely blurt them out in a forceful and disordered manner. Your sole focus would be on processing your thoughts and conveying them into speech. The emotional turbulence of severe hysteria and grief makes it very difficult to convey thought into actual dialogue, and the simple wording of a sentence becomes very challenging.
You think it's
Jennifer
time? Are
seems
you
to
sure?
be more concentrated on how she's being perceived, yet finds her words easily and executes her sentences perfectly.
One of the gentlemen asked my father if he had money in his wallet and where his wallet was. So they took me, because I was next to the stairwell, to show them where my father's wallet was, but I didn't know. They had turned the room upside down. I didn't know where his pants were at that time.
At this point, they think she might be a suspect based off of how she
The
worded
intruders
stuff.
retrieve $1,100 from the master bedroom and then tie Jennifer to the upstairs banister.
Next thing I know, I think I heard my parents going down the stairs, and my mom was asking them for me to come with them. They wouldn't let me come with them. And after they said, the last things I heard them say was, you lied to us, you lied to us. And then I heard 2 pops. My mom screamed. I yelled out for her. And a couple more pops.
Take your time. Take your time.
And I think I heard my mom say or moan or something, and then they did one more before they left, and then one of the guys said, we have to go now, it's been too long. And then they ran out the door, and I think
There was 4 gunshots
when they
though.
were out the door,
She's only saying 3. There
I
was 4.
heard my dad go up the stairs, and at that point,
Jennifer has clearly gotten her story straight beforehand, yet in the next moment appears to realize how unusual it is that she was able to make a phone call when her hands were tied behind her back to a banister. She hesitates, stutters, and even looks to the detective for approval twice before she quickly moves on.
I had my phone on me, behind me, that I had hidden there that they didn't know about.
I had my phone behind me.
I had my phone on me, behind me, that I had hidden there that they didn't know about. So when I thought that they had heard them all leave and my dad ran up the stairs, I whipped up the phone and I called 911. But I still hadn't heard anything from my mom, and all I could hear was my dad running on the street, just
Yep, behind me.
moaning and making sounds.
The detective then breaks the event down into components and has Jennifer go through each moment in more detail. The first of which is the appearance of the intruders. Jennifer now describes the one who appeared to be in charge.
The only thing I can remember was he had dreadlocks.
He had dreadlocks. So can you describe his race to me?
He was black.
Was his head covered? Was his face covered? Do you remember anything about that?
Just that his dreadlocks were kind of flopping all over the place. I couldn't really see his face, and they kept the lights dark as much as possible.
Did he have a gun?
Yes.
Did you see the gun?
I only saw the top part of the gun.
What did it look like?
Kind of, it was black.
Yeah. Do you know where the other guys involved in this are?
People are terrible
I
at
know
recollecting
one
this sort of
stayed
stuff,
with
by
my
the way.
parents downstairs.
Normally,
Okay.
because in a panic state, it's really hard for people to recall specific things like this.
The other one, I'm not at that point in time. I was more focused on him, like he was seeing me and he was coming after me.
So you're
I
saying
think-
there's 3 for sure?
Yeah.
That's all, you saw a total of 3 at one time, you saw 3 people
Yes.
together?
Yes, when I went downstairs, I
Okay.
saw 3 shadows.
She details the appearances of the other 2 assailants, whom she asserts were also black males. The detective then brings her back to the one in charge.
Now the first guy who spoke to you, what kind of, did he have any accent? Was
None
it
that
clear?
I could make out.
Was it
Just
clear English?
English,
Unbroken?
unbroken.
No accent?
From the terms he used, I didn't get to pick up an accent, no. He used
So-
short phrases.
He sounded Canadian.
I would say, yes, he was born here.
He was born here.
She asserts that the second intruder didn't speak, while the third had a Caribbean accent. She then goes on to say she was taken downstairs for a brief moment and saw her parents under guard in the living room. Her father was asked where his wallet was, and he told them it was in the master bedroom. Jennifer was then taken back upstairs alone with 2 of the assailants to help them find it. They don't find the wallet, but instead retrieve a pile of cash from inside the nightstand. Jennifer was then tied to the upstairs banister and left alone as the intruders went back down.
Why would she want her
And the
parents
next thing I
dead?
can hear are them telling my parents to move to the basement.
Okay?
And I'm asking
clue.
them, why, where are you going? And my mom's yelling to me, I want my daughter. Why can't my daughter come too? I want my daughter.
Jennifer then hears one of the intruders yell, "You lied to us."
Who do you hear yelling, "You lied to us," or to that
Number
extent?
3.
Number 3.
I'm assuming it's to my father. Because he was the one asking for the wallet.
Now you hear this commotion downstairs. You said you heard 2 pops. And you heard who scream? Your mom. And what was she screaming? Do you remember?
I couldn't make it out. It
No?
was kind of like a cry yell, so it was just,
Okay.
they had made the first round, or pop, pop, and
It wasn't to hide and cover up that she was faking her college entry. It was, they already found out. They had found out that she was faking it. So they gave her a choice of either going back home and actually going to school and never leaving the house besides for school, or doing whatever she wanted but being cut off from the family and any financial support as well, etc. So they'd already found out. Her third solution was staging a robbery gone wrong, which is what happened. So
they had said, okay, that's enough. Let's go.
Who said that? Whose voice is that?
seems a
Number
little
1.
absurd.
Okay.
And then I heard one more after that. And they were like, that's enough. Let's go.
Okay. And again, that's number 1.
Yes.
So what do you hear next after you hear the scrambling? They're gone. Because you're hearing no more. I gather that's how you assume they're gone, is because you don't hear it. Then you hear your dad.
I reached for my phone at
Okay.
that point.
And you call 911. Okay. When your father exits, you hear the door open. Because you hear your dog, and then you
And then I can hear like the outside noises.
Okay.
Like the wind coming in, and I just hear my dad, I think he's...
Oh yeah, the outside noises.
You think that he's sustained some kind of injury because he's not, you can't understand what he's saying.
What a calm way to
What
reenact
about-
your dying father.
Can you hear your mom? Okay. Where does your dad go? Do you know where? You never see your dad again until when we're at the hospital. I think that's what you said, right?
I saw him when he was on the gurney.
Is there any reason to suspect, or anything that's happened in the recent weeks leading up, that would have you guys be a target of some type of incident like this?
We live a straightforward, kind of almost routine life.
Whenever Jennifer smiles, it takes her a couple seconds to realize she's not exhibiting the correct behavior, and she then snaps back into her solemn stare. The 2 looks are so diametrically opposed to each other that it becomes glaringly obvious she's forcing one of the emotions.
What, in your opinion, would cause people to target your house to think there was a large quantity of money?
I'm not sure.
Now, you say your mom drives a Lexus.
It could be because of the aesthetics, yes.
What about your dad?
He drives a Mercedes
Aesthetics?
and he loves that baby.
Is that right?
The questions end here, and the detective leaves the room for half an hour to double-check if he needs any more information. After 15 minutes of Jennifer waiting alone, we're gifted with another performance of the startle reflex, only this time it's slightly less convincing. If investigators were certain of Jennifer's innocence, this would have been the first and last time she would have been questioned in such a manner. Police are extremely careful in how they involve victims in investigations as to not cause further unnecessary trauma. But on this particular occasion, it would come as no surprise that Jennifer's psychological well-being was of less concern. She was officially still a victim and witness, but unofficially a leading suspect. She was called back in to give another statement just 2 days later at 9 a.m. She was told the reason was to collect more details, but you'll notice that the line of questioning and the answers they attain have little to no use for anything outside of Jennifer's culpability. The actual reason for this second statement is to collect further information to use against her at a later stage. In this interview alone, they already start the process of cross-examination and start to catch her out in previous lies. Jennifer is still a witness at this moment, and the exchange is void of any direct confrontation. Yet she is still put under a modest amount of pressure, and the holes in her story start to become ever more apparent.
Take that first interview that we had, which was, hours after what had transpired, put it aside. It's almost like we've never spoken before, okay? So we're starting afresh. We're starting from new. That way you're not going to say, I think I already told him that. Don't worry about what you already told me.
Do you, Jennifer Penn, swear or declare that the evidence that you give in this investigation shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
We're going to see if we've learned or if you've remembered anything else. And there's some questions with respect to that statement that I'm going to ask you about. Okay, but I'm going to let you start again, and let's move forward from any time in that day where you want to start. If it's the time you woke up or if it's the time that your first interaction, it's your choice.
Okay, I'm very.
She didn't choose to talk or not. Why did she choose to talk? If you killed your parents, you have the choice to talk or not. Well, they don't know that, and to her. And to them, to her knowledge, she was a victim of the same crime, but they didn't kill her, they killed them. So, officially, she's not a suspect. They're questioning her as a witness. And it would be awfully suspicious if the witness doesn't want to say anything. Right? That'd be kind of weird.
Why are you nervous? Tell me about why you're nervous.
Because I don't want to say the wrong thing.
That's true. Yeah.
But
it is in a coma at this time, so I mean.
You're right.
And I've been scattered, and so bits and pieces are here, and some pieces aren't here, and I'm just.
So, I want you to sit back in your chair. Okay, just sit back in your chair. Take a deep breath. Okay. Close your eyes. Just follow my line. Just sit back in the chair for a second. Sit back. Relax the best you can. Close your eyes.
Not relaxing at all.
And just breathe for a minute. Okay?
Look, this is how you relax.
The most curious detail you've probably come to notice is this. It's known as a self-pacifying gesture. A person who does this is most often uncomfortable and sometimes fearful of what lies ahead. It's a coping mechanism to dissipate stress and afford self-assurance.
What I can remember is
AGD.
when I woke up, I had some breakfast,
She practices on the piano, studies piano history, plays games on her phone, and speaks with her friends on Facebook during the morning hours. Her mom leaves to visit her grandfather at around noon and returns at 3 p.m. to prepare dinner. Her father comes home at around 4:30 from work, and dinner is served 1 hour later. Her mother leaves for line dancing at 7, then returns at 9:30. Jennifer at this point is in bed talking with her friend on the phone, and her father is in the computer room. She then hears her mother loudly call out to her father.
What is she saying?
She's calling him by his name and to come down.
Okay, so give us verbatim. What do you hear her saying?
In Vietnamese, she's like, Hanoi, xuống đây.
She's clearly aware that she has to appear mournful over the subject matter and sensibly draws out this emotion at the correct moments. Yet what's fascinating is how she's unable to maintain this emotion when inquired over the same elements. In this very moment, she appears completely grief-stricken, but when the investigator
I got you.
p.m. to prepare dinner. Her father comes home at around 4:30 from work, and dinner is served 1 hour later. Her mother leaves for line dancing at 7, then returns at 9:30. Jennifer at this point is in bed talking with her friend on the phone, and her father is in the computer room. She then hears her mother loudly call out to her father.
What is she saying?
She's not officially a suspect, but they,
Okay,
off the official record, she is
saying.
seen as a suspect right now. Yeah.
She's like, Hanoi, xuống đây.
She's clearly aware that she has to appear mournful over the subject matter and sensibly draws out this emotion at the correct moments. Yet what's fascinating is how she's unable to maintain this emotion when inquired over the same elements. In this very moment, she appears completely grief-stricken, but when the investigator inquires further, this supposed grief rapidly dissipates. It's extremely difficult to convincingly act out an emotion while evaluating a question. It requires two completely different parts of the brain, which is why most people can only do one of these things at a time. This is exactly what you see in the next moment, and continuously throughout this
Human's
interview.
terrible at
What does that
multitasking.
translate to?
That's my father's name, Han. Come down here.
Does she say anything else associated with that?
I can't hear clearly because, like, I was on the phone and the TV was on,
Sure.
but that's what I heard.
Is she yelling?
Her voice is
Or
actually
is it,
completely changed. Yeah.
normal?
It's a loud, she's not yelling, but it's a loud tone.
Okay.
She then hangs up the phone with her friend once she hears the commotion.
As I'm hanging up the phone with him, I hear footsteps going up the stairs.
Okay.
But they're heavier footsteps than what is to be expected from my parents.
Okay.
Jennifer hears unfamiliar voices, so she opens her door to investigate. She has spoken for 2 minutes up to this point without being interrupted, and once again manages to build up her emotion to correlate with a supposedly terrifying event. Yet as soon as the detective interjects with a question, we once again see this emotion dissipate.
I peered out, and there was a person in what would have been my brother's room.
And where's your brother's room located?
Just a little bit down the, I could see from my doorway to his doorway.
God.
A little bit down the hall.
So fast.
Okay.
Literally, like
The
a
first
complete
intruder
page
then
turn.
robs Jennifer at gunpoint
Wow.
before taking her to the ground floor, where she then sees her parents sitting next to each other.
From where I was standing, my father was sitting on the right,
That's
and my mother was
insane.
sitting
How
on the left,
flipped
Sitting
that
where?
is.
on a couch, on our couch.
Sitting on the couch. Are they looking out towards you?
No, their backs are towards me.
Okay. And you're now on the ground level? Are you on the floor? Or on the
I'm
sitting on the
on the
stairs?
floor. I'm sitting on the floor.
That's so
All right,
wild.
where are your hands?
They had tied my hands,
So let's
as
go-
I said.
Let's go back up to the stairs. Remember we said
Her emotional display in seeing her parents in distress gradually faded after each interjection, but you'll now see it completely cease altogether once she realizes that she made her first mistake. Everything she had said up to this point correlated with her initial statement, but she had just forgot to mention that she was first tied up before being taken downstairs, and only brought it up when reminded by the detective.
take the other statement and whatever we've said before.
No, I said it earlier.
She didn't say she was tied up earlier. She completely forgot to mention it and
She
seems to
lied.
be trying to convince the detective otherwise. It's a moment of slight panic, which becomes far more pronounced when you compare it to her supposed grief-stricken recollection 5 seconds earlier. The detective doesn't challenge this, as it can be used against her at a much later stage, and the main objective at this point is to collect as much conflicting information as possible.
Okay, then we must let's get back to that area. I think you might have touched on it. We went back into the description. So where do you get your hands tied, and where does the string come from?
I'm not sure where the string comes from, but he had the string.
Okay.
And after I gave him my money,
I think it came from Lowe's,
hands.
actually, maybe.
She is then taken downstairs where she sees her mother being interrogated by the second assailant over the whereabouts of the cash. According to her first statement, the second assailant never said a word the entire time.
It's
He
weird.
had pushed her back onto the couch. And
Weird how she describes whatever
was pushing her
bound
back
her up
onto the
as
couch.
string.
And she kept saying, "Where's my purse? Where's my purse?" And the guy kept telling her to sit down, and I didn't want my mom to get hurt.
Second guy never talked, yeah? Now all of a sudden he's talking?
How many times does she get up and get pushed back down?
I'd say she got up twice.
Has number 2 uttered a word at this point in time?
I can't remember hearing him.
Okay. So we're just correcting what you said earlier, because you said earlier that it was number 2 who was asking where the purse is, what the purse is, and now you've said it's number 1 guy who would initially...
I'm sorry, it's just...
No. It's all a purpose. The purpose here is clarifying what you're saying. So number 1 is...
don't want to...
Number 1 is the one who's doing the talking.
I don't want to
about the
fuck
purse.
up and get caught.
Number
yeah.
3
Okay, yeah.
is focused on your dad's wallet. Okay.
Jennifer continues to make contradictions and is forced to correct herself multiple times after she notices the puzzled gaze from the detective. He inquires over the appearance of assailant number 2, who is wearing a hoodie according to the first statement.
Do you get a good look at number 2 now of what he's wearing?
All I could tell was he had a vest, and his face was like a long oval face.
He had a vest?
No, hoodie.
Okay.
Dark hoodie.
Okay. Did you see them recover anything inside your mom and dad's room?
Are we
I
watching
didn't
Joe's
see
solution
anything,
next?
no.
Okay, Harvey.
Are you sure? Because
No, we're actually watching
when we spoke the
Candace's
last
confession.
time, there was some mention of some other money.
That's the
that
next
went
one.
missing.
I believe when they were looking for my father's wallet, they had opened the drawer,
Following up with Diego's
and it was in an envelope
deadly
What
crime.
drawer would that have been in?
if you're at the doorway where I was standing on the left side, the bedside table.
Whose side of the bed is it?
That's my mother's side of the bed.
Okay.
More than likely a total coincidence, yet she almost appears to be praying that she gave the correct response. Fortunately for her, she was correct on this occasion.
And approximately how much money?
She said
I'm not sure
1100
how much
earlier.
she took out for our trip, but I can only estimate about a few $100s.
Few hundred, because at the time, the last time
Or
you told me, you were pretty adamant about $1,100. So I'm curious to know how you came up with that number.
Almost like she
I
checked
believe we were at the
beforehand.
border. We stopped at the duty free. My mother was deciding whether to use her U.S. currency or her U.S. currency or her
No,
Canadian
not 10 grand,
currency.
1100, so $1,100.
So it was at that time you remember hearing $1,100? And that's what, is that the inference you're saying? Is that, because you're pretty solid saying that it was $1,100 that went missing, that was taken. And that you saw it when we spoke.
Yep.
And who took it? Who took possession of the money?
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
The detective lets the contradiction slide once more. Jennifer is then brought to the moment where the intruders had just left and she is tied to the upstairs banister.
Let's come back to now. You're being taken to the banister in the
I'm
upper
sorry,
level.
I don't
Don't
remember.
apologize, okay? I'm going to try and ask you questions. to
Shut
try
the
and
fuck
clarify
up.
Points, okay? If you don't remember, you
Oh my
don't
god.
remember. Okay, so there's no apologizing. The only reason you
Don't.
apologize to me is if you've lied to me.
No.
Okay,
No, it's
so
I just
then in this case, then don't apologize to me. It's
Kind of true,
okay.
kind of true,
Now
kind of
I'm gonna
true.
ask you questions to clarify points.
Yes, sir.
You're now bound to this, to the railing. Can you
Liar
show me- Can you
energy.
stand up and turn around and tell me, just show on the camera, how your hands are bound? And how you are against the railing. You don't have to sit down. We just need to see how you were.
tell you.
No.
The only reason that I'm trying to, I need to do this is that I'm also going to ask you is that so take this back take it out of a traumatizing event, which it is, and put yourself into a more clinical position, because I want to see how you could physically get your phone out of your waistband. We're obviously going to need to know that. It's very important. So traumatize away now.
Good
Put
point.
yourself into just a state of, I need to mechanically show
Liar.
how I can get access to my phone. Okay, because that's obviously very relevant. We know you made the phone call, but questions are going to obviously raise is that if my hands are bound and I'm against a railing, how do I talk to a 911 operator? Okay, so clinically, this is now a clinical demonstration. Just stand up, focus in on how you did it.
Yeah, take your
I
last
want you
sip
to
of
stick
freedom,
that in your
bitch.
waistband as an example. Okay, so take your sweat off, because
This is gonna be very stupid, isn't it?
It's a one-time
This is
demonstration.
gonna look very stupid, I bet.
The
She'll be
two
like,
critical
"Yeah, like
parts
that,
of this
it's really
demonstration
stupid."
are where Jennifer states she was tied, and the movement of her arms as she takes her phone out of her pocket.
This is gonna
the
look really
investigator is
stupid.
hoping the mechanics of the two components would be illogical and
hold
contradict
on.
each other.
They tied my upper arm
Yes,
around the banister,
yes.
but my hands were bound
In real
together.
time.
So your hands bound together, and this is the arm that's the strings wrapped around against the banister?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now how can you get to the phone? And how do you make the phone call?
Whether it be a stroke of luck or that Jennifer had prepared for this moment, this actually made sense. Had her arms gone left or the point of restraint been below the elbow, none of this would have been possible. It's perhaps the single moment where Jennifer's statement was somewhat beneficial to her defense. We know Jennifer was tied up when police arrived, but the assumption was that she had her phone in her hands the entire time and wouldn't have had to retrieve it from her waistband. She can now argue that this portion of her testimony is genuine.
911.
Mm-hmm.
And do you talk down like that?
Yes, I'm yelling at the phone like this.
And how can you hear?
I turned the volume on max.
Yes? So that's exactly the way that you're talking to her against the railing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good enough. Sit down.
Jennifer is then brought back to the moment just before she heard the gunshots.
At this point, I started hearing my parents get up. And they're moving. And my mom's yelling, "Where's my daughter? I want my daughter. Where's my daughter?" And I'm yelling, "Mom, I'm here."
Here. Jennifer, take a Kleenex and just
She didn't say that last time, did she?
take a minute.
You'll notice that she doesn't wipe her eyes or blow her nose, just buries her face in the tissue, which the detective later testified remained completely dry.
Okay.
That's kind of funny.
So we're now down in the basement. They're down in the.
Can't even garner fake
basement.
tears.
I heard pop.
Boomer, it's
I heard
you.
my mom. I heard her squeal.
Multiple pops occur thereafter before she hears the intruders leave through the front door.
Once the door closed, I heard my father. He ran up the stairs and all I could hear was moaning. Yeah. Once I heard him starting to move, that's when I pulled out the phone and I was trying to call 911.
This is untrue. She only realized her father was alive midway through the 911 call. And in that exact moment, you can actually hear genuine fear in her voice compared to her fabricated panic the moment before.
I don't want to hear that guy again. That was upsetting. I don't want to hear her dad calling out. No. Nope. I do not want to hear that again.
Of this statement is collecting information
That
to
was
set up the main
slightly
strategy for
upsetting for me,
Jennifer's
so,
interrogation that will take place 10 days later. They go through Jennifer's past and gather intel to lay the foundation for what's known as the how and why solution, which will be explained in further detail at a later stage.
What I want to do now is I want to go into your past, okay? And start talking about things that have been going on with you.
The detective now morphs into a therapist, and what's fascinating is how Jennifer doesn't once question the new line of inquisition. Many argue that it was the first time Jennifer was even asked about such matters, giving reason for her willingness to open
God,
up.
she's so
This may
fidgety.
have been the first time in her life she was able to process her frustrations and vent to someone who appeared to care.
Look at her
The
fidgety.
first topic is
So
her parents
fidgety.
and the expectations and pressures she was under to succeed, which led to her faking her grades and then her college degree as to not be a disappointment.
How did you feel about that? How did you feel about having to lie to your parents?
I felt guilty, but every time I tried to bring it up, there was just so much expectation.
Did you have any resentment towards them for this?
I chose what I
No.
chose, but in the end I chose my family.
She just referred to the ultimatum she was given by her father. The choice to live at home and go back to school, or be completely cut off by her parents and live with her boyfriend. Information gathering on Jennifer's past goes on for roughly 2 hours and 20 minutes. The detective then ends the exchange by putting her under some pressure. It's not a direct confrontation, but it's by far the most uncomfortable position she's been in up to this point. The detective subtly switches back to the home invasion and how the intruders were able to gain access without breaking in.
Like you didn't hear a doorbell, you didn't hear a door knock, you didn't hear a door kicked in, you didn't.
I said I was watching
No,
TV on the phone.
but-
I don't know how.
Yeah, I know. We went over that back and forth. We don't know how. So somehow they got into your house by getting through your mom down on the lower level, right? Because she's the only one who's down
She
there.
was the only one down there.
So it's very confusing. Generally, random events are not,
This is
in
true.
most cases, random.
This
There's
is
a
true.
rhyme or reason why they've come to your house.
Typically robberies, they're not always done by somebody personal, but they're, there's usually a connection to where is being robbed with the people that did it. Either like a friend of a friend, somebody told somebody they wouldn't be there because they're leaving for vacation or something, and then like their friend like 3 times over, like they have a friend who figured it out, and then that friend told that friend, and that friend told that friend, or something like that, So a lot of time, I mean, sometimes there's random burglaries, but stuff with like robberies especially, there's a weird amount of connection to it. The only real thing crime wise that can be very sporadic is serial killers, because they don't typically choose anything personal unless it's like just certain specific like appearances or genders of people. They don't like. And even then there can be ones that are specific. A lot of robberies are done due to like personal information being told. You don't rob a house if you know they're there. You don't rob a house if you don't know whether or not they'll be there. You rob a house because you know they won't be there. It's pretty much the usual MO. Because hold on, there's a bar cycle running past my house. Get it, I guess. So there's a thing called crime of opportunity. It's the logic behind somebody to commit a crime, and one of them, I mean, opportunity is a big thing there. I mean, one of them, it has to do with who the victim is, if anybody's around, if anybody, police wise is around, if the time is right, if it's a good time to do it, if you can overtake whoever is going to stop you. And especially with like robberies, the thing that makes a robbery go wrong is the person that you're stealing from being there. So typically people don't want anybody to be there when they do that, So, but people don't just burst into random homes. They don't rob random homes most of the time. They find out information beforehand. They're not going to just randomly go into houses. This is why I've talked about this shit. I've talked about how like people, this is a whole different thing. People who own guns are always like, yeah, they can come into my house. I have my gun. I'm ready. But I'm like, they're not going to fucking go to your house. They're not going to even show up because you keep talking about how you have a gun. You keep flexing it on social media. Like they're not just like, They literally know you'll have a firearm and they're not going to show up. And if they do, you're not going to be there. You know? That's a completely dangerous factor for them. They're not going to deal with that. They're literally not going to show up to the house of somebody who's armed. And if they do, you're not going to be there for it. That's the whole point. The whole point is to avoid anything like that. So.
But from what you've told me inside the house, the only thing that you hear them saying to you,
I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but if I was to rob somebody's house, I'm not going to go to somebody's house with a gun.
No.
And I'm not going to go there when they're there if they do.
You're telling me that you had no involvement in what happened. Meaning not saying how the outcome came, but
they're going to rob a house knowing there's something in there for them.
Any type
exactly.
of illegal activity that would have drawn you or the attention of you to have bad people come to your house looking for large sums of money. You're not involved in this any which way. Because the question obviously stands, Jennifer, is you're upstairs and they're downstairs. Right? So it's a natural concern.
Aren't a lot of gun owners killed by their own guns? No, but your likelihood of getting shot is higher because you own one. I'll tell you that based off of what I've read. But gun stuff is a whole different thing. I know people have opinions on them.
The only thing I can say is he said I cooperated. But I asked him to take me.
The number one guy said you cooperated. Okay. Who's to say this whole thing isn't a lie? That what you're telling me is a lie? Because if you are lying, it's the most cold-blooded thing that I have ever faced in my life.
Oh, God damn. Savage. He's making fun of me. He's straight up got it, like went at her. Holy
There's
hell.
Nothing that you've said to me today
Ruthless
is a lie.
detective.
Now, back to another very difficult question. But if I don't ask it, I'm going to be, it's an obvious one. The resentment that you may have had towards your parents for the interference in your relationship in your life and essentially locking you down in your house.
At the end of the day, I love my parents and I chose to be with them. And if I wanted to, I could have just left, but I didn't. I wanted to stay with them and take care of them.
Motive.
So this wasn't some evil plot that you thought up to...
Oh my God, no.
No interaction, no belief, you didn't have anything to do with this thing at all, whatsoever. No. You don't engage in illegal activity?
No.
Because you know that it'll be very easily, it will be a very easy thing to discredit you on, right? We're in the process of trying to add credibility to what you tell us, and that's through the process of asking people and doing whatever. Through that same process, it will be very easy to find the flaws in what you've said, which again then turns the focus back to you. Okay? It's a natural progress. It's a natural thing that investigators do. We eliminate people, or we draw our attention to them. It's a natural thing. It's not brain surgery. Okay?
The detective leaves the room for 20 minutes to allow Jennifer to stew in her own thoughts before they end the statement. He comes back to add one last bit of psychological pressure that he carefully disguises as reassurance. Jennifer will leave terrified, but still believe the police are on her side.
Okay, we're
my God.
Done, essentially. How are you feeling?
Sorry, you really scared me.
Did I? What did I scare you about? Sit down and take a load off. Tell me how you're feeling. And how I scared you.
Stewing in thoughts.
I don't want you walking away from here thinking I'm evil. I want you to walking around from here thinking that
you're a piece of shit.
This guy is helping investigate my mom's murder, and he's going to turn over every stone possible to make sure that we catch the people who do that. That's what I want you feeling. So I don't want you walking away from here thinking that I scared you, or I'm.
Detectives are the original gaslight girl bosses.
Sometimes we have to ask very, very difficult questions, but it's my job. Okay. You're our only link. You're it. Until your dad is back and being able to be spoken to, right now you're our only link to this case.
Her father had bullet fragments lodged in his face that doctors couldn't remove, and a shattered neck bone. At the time of this interview, the consensus was that if he did regain consciousness, he would be useless as a witness due to irreversible brain damage.
Ooh.
So we may rely on you heavily until we can speak to your father. Okay? So don't be afraid.
Could you imagine doing that to anybody?
The last thing you
let
should
alone
be
your own
afraid of
parents? Like,
is
that's
anything.
fucked.
If you've told the truth and you've been truthful through this whole process, then you're helping. You're doing your part. Okay? And don't be afraid of me.
I'm just afraid because, you know, like, I know everything is just all pointing negatively right now, and I don't understand why. I feel that, like, the way you're speaking to me, it's kind of like, I know you said that you had to say those things, but it's...
Like you're a
it's
suspect?
here, and I've already said it to the special victims yesterday, but there's, like, ideas in my head.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid to say it out loud. But...
Ideas about speculation of what happened? How it happened? Unfortunately, at times some of us have to point the finger, seem like we're pointing the finger, and it really is just to provoke you to see what you're going to do, how you're going to respond. Okay? So...
This is genuine. He's
it's
right.
a question, and it's
That is what they do. They poke and prod for information.
Okay? You have nothing to fear. Absolutely nothing.
That's a lie.
Okay?
Police kept Jennifer under close observation from this point forward. A surveillance detail was assigned to track her every movement, and she was even monitored at her mother's funeral 3 days later. According to reports, she was emotionless the majority of the time, only showing what appeared to be feigned grief at certain moments. She never shed a single tear, and kept her eyes to the floor or completely shut for the entirety of the service. Jennifer's father had in fact awoken from his induced coma the day prior, and miraculously seemed to remember everything from the night of the incident. He would give an official statement in secret on November 16th, and multiple parts of his story contradicted what Jennifer had told police. The most significant detail was that she was never tied up, but instead walking around freely and talking with the intruders as if they were friends. He actually spoke with Jennifer over the phone, but was informed by investigators to act amnesic and not to confront her, only to ask her if she thought her ex-boyfriend was behind it. She stated that she was almost certain he wasn't. The only issue with Hahn's statement was that he had suffered minor brain damage from the gunshot, which could be used by a defense team to refute his testimony in court, or even get it thrown out altogether. Furthermore, it was essentially his word against Jennifer's, and their turbulent relationship would also work greatly in the defense's favor. York Regional Police knew they needed a confession for the best possible chance at securing a conviction, so they assigned their most experienced investigator to conduct Jennifer's interrogation. She was called back into...
What's it called when you're not guilty but act/say you are guilty? Oh, there's something... I forget the term, but it happens a lot when people are trying to protect others. If they like know they did something, they try to take the fall. I don't remember what it's called. I mean, a false confession, yeah, but there's a specific term for somebody who admits to the crime to protect somebody else, pretty much. Also, I will say this is a good move because eyewitness testimonies are not good. They're not good. They're not very consistent. People are very bad at recollecting traumatic things, which most crimes are traumatic if there's a witness. No, not accomplice. It's somebody that wasn't involved with the crime, that admitted to the crime to protect the person who committed the crime, but they weren't involved. No, it's not a scapegoat. A scapegoat is somebody blaming somebody else for the crime. It's somebody willingly pretending they committed the crime to protect the person who did. A scapegoat is somebody who is blamed, not willingly, pretty much. Fall guy would be another term for scapegoat, probably, yeah. Okay. So, ads done. Wilbur ended stream. Didn't raid because he didn't want people who didn't want to see this sort of material be upset. But I do appreciate anybody that came over from his suggestion. You're absolutely beautiful. So we're watching JCS Criminal Psychology. It's a true crime YouTube channel that goes over police interviews of suspects. So there's a large trigger warning about this content. This is stuff involving murder, abuse, like a lot of traumatic stuff. So if that isn't something you really want to have drummed back up, if you deal with that sort of stuff or had, and that upsets you, this might not be the stream for you, at least for now. You can follow me and come back some other time when I'm not watching this sort of thing. I don't think we're going to be doing this all day. But we're watching somebody named Jennifer. Jennifer was faking to her parents that she was in college and stuff like that. And they found out about it and told her she was living with her boyfriend, who like she was in secret with her boyfriend doing drugs, like not doing stuff that her parents wanted. So her parents told her to either come home and never leave the house unless you're doing it for school, enroll back in school, whatever, or you can do whatever you want, but we'll disown you and you'll have no financial security from us or anything, right? So Jennifer chose a third option, which was having her boyfriend hire or ask three of his friends to purposely botch a robbery and kill both of her parents. Which is obviously a little bit of an overreaction. They killed the mom, and they didn't. What she doesn't know or didn't know at the time was that her dad survived. And you know what? I can roll back a little bit. I'll roll back a little bit to where it gets really good. How about that? Yeah, like right about here. So what we found out is the dad survived and ended up in a coma and recovered.
It's been answered, and if you're
assigned to
okay.
This is after her second day of questioning, and they kind of realized there were some holes in her story, and they kept asking her to clarify, and she kept messing with the story a bit, and they're basically letting her go for the time being, etc. Pretty much, they're already suspicious that she's involved. They don't know how, but they're trying to figure out whether or not it's true. Pretty much.
Police kept Jennifer under close observation from this point forward. A surveillance detail was assigned to track her every movement, and she was even monitored at her mother's funeral 3 days later. According to reports, she was emotionless the majority of the time, only showing what appeared to be feigned grief at certain moments. She never shed a single tear, and kept her eyes to the floor or completely shut for the entirety of the service. Jennifer's father had in fact awoken from his induced coma the day prior, and miraculously seemed to remember everything from the night of the incident. He would give an official statement in secret on November 16th, and multiple parts of his story contradicted what Jennifer had told police. The most significant detail was that she was never tied up, but instead walking around freely and talking with the intruders as if they were friends. He actually spoke with Jennifer over the phone, but was informed by investigators to act amnesic and not to confront her, only to ask her if she thought her ex-boyfriend was behind it. She stated that she was almost certain he wasn't. The only issue with Hahn's statement was that he had suffered minor brain damage from the gunshot, which could be used by a defense team to refute his testimony in court, or even get it thrown out altogether. Furthermore, it was essentially his word against Jennifer's, and their turbulent relationship would also work greatly in the defense's favor. York Regional Police knew they needed
once again,
a
eyewitness testimonies,
best possible
not the best way to convince a jury of the crime.
Investigator to conduct Jennifer's interrogation. She was called back into the Markham Police Station on the 22nd of November at 2:30 p.m., a week and a half after the incident took place.
So just for the record, it is the 22nd of November 2010. We're at the 5 District Station in the town of Markham. My computer right now says 2:39
I think my view count
in the
froze.
afternoon.
Wilbur sent too many people too fast.
Just for
that
the
generous
record,
bastard.
my name is Detective William Gates. You can just call me Bill here today. And what do you like to be called?
Jen.
Jen? Yep. What do you prefer, Jen or Jennifer?
Doesn't.
Either or? Okay, so Jen, you're aware that the
just to reiterate, the reason they're trying to get her to confess is because it's better evidence than her dad. Even throughout the brain damage and the rocky relationship they have, a he said she said situation in court isn't a good one, and it doesn't go well. It's hard for the jury to really find whichever one is more convincing, because everybody will have biases and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a false confession was what I was talking about. It's a lot of them. It can vary. Yeah, it's like somebody convinces them to admit to it regardless of if they did. They admit to it instead of the person who did, to defend the person who did, stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, they're trying to get more to go off of than just her dad basically saying that everything she's saying isn't consistent with what actually happened, because now they have two witnesses of the same crime who are giving conflicting details. So basically they need to get it to where they catch her in a different sort of problem, like a lie, or get her to confess, etc. For people that don't know as well, I have a degree in criminology, so I'm sure some of you are wondering why this fucking idiot's talking, thinking he knows what the fuck's going on. I don't know everything that's going on, but I studied this for, stuff like this for a few years, so I know a little bit. I did drop out of my master's program for the same degree to stream full time, so I guess I'm not that smart, nor was I dedicated enough to be super smart, but enough to know a little bit about what's going on. So
audio tape and everything's on. It's the same as last time. Okay, you've been here on 2 other occasions, I understand, on the 9th of November, and I believe again on the 11th of November. Is that correct? Okay. And do you know why we're here today?
Just to discuss stuff.
Yeah, regarding what?
So it's so muffled. Wait, did I turn closed captioning on? I did.
Okay. And as a result of that home invasion, your father and Pam was actually shot, and your mother, Pan, was actually killed. Is that correct?
Do I do true crime streams often? I don't. This was literally yesterday I heard about this channel. So I kind of want to do more, especially because like criminal justice was really the only thing that was interesting to me, except gaming and content and stuff like that. So like this stuff is really interesting to me. So I would love to find more and do all the JCS ones, at least in small bursts. I don't think I want to do it all the time. Like I can't sit this still for so long. But I'm willing to do like one of these a day or so, and then do something else, because I love playing games too. But yeah, this is JCS criminal psychology, if you don't already know. I think there's a lot of other stuff that I'll do my best to find more. We watched the Pretending to Be Crazy one yesterday. That one was really, really cool. But
What's unique about this interrogator is how he immediately adopts a no-nonsense approach, yet manages to build rapport and remain sympathetic at the same time. You'll see that he has far less patience compared to the previous investigator, yet seems to create a stronger connection with the suspect. It's a hard thing to explain, but easily observed, as you'll soon find out.
So that's what we're going to discuss here today.
Jennifer this time around has read her rights to silence rather than her rights as a witness. If she knew anything about the law in Canada, she would be wise to the fact that she is now a suspect. Fortunately for the investigator, she remains completely naive to the situation throughout the opening phase of the interrogation.
That's a big difference.
Making her far more susceptible to the strategy he is about to employ.
Okay, just hold on a second.
Which isn't their problem.
Okay, we're having technical difficulties
given
here.
She literally conspired to murder.
Me. What we're going to do is, if you don't mind holding tight there, I'm just going to move my equipment to the other room. Okay, and then I'll come over and we'll move over there next door. Okay.
I'm just not comfortable being on my own.
Okay, I'm going to be right here though. Okay.
With respect to interrogations, it's common knowledge that the psychological manipulation begins before a single word is spoken. The physical layout of the room is designed to accelerate the sense of discomfort and isolation. And it's fascinating to observe how each interrogator has their own unique methods of setting the tone. Knowing how this interrogation plays out allows us to realize this detective's procedure. The considerable distance between him and the suspect will keep her relaxed enough to be influenced by Phase 1. But this same distance will intensify the pressure once he eventually closes it during Phase 2. You'll notice this detective is slow with his first strategy, but swift with the second. He takes his time in building trust and establishing rapport, yet once this initial connection is secured, the transition to aggression will be abrupt and ever increasing from that point forward. Jennifer takes a seat in the room 15 minutes since she was first informed of her rights. It's important to note that she is still free to leave at any time.
They take their time.
She is unknowingly a suspect, but not under arrest.
So just for the record, this room is being videotaped and audio taped, just like the other one.
What's going on with the views? Did Will send more people? What happened? Oh boy.
Okay.
The detective
23K? What? Surely not. What is Will doing right now? Oh boy. Oh. You know, maybe his auto host flipped on me. Because Will hosts me. I believe Will has his auto host on me a lot. So what probably happened is he suggested people to come to me. And then he ended stream and nobody else he hosts is on. So it just flipped to me anyway. So, interesting. Anybody that can hear me, please be safe. This is a huge trigger warning. This is a true crime video. They're interviewing a suspect in a murder case. So there's a lot of, you know, triggers involved in this. It does a lot with you know, it involves a lot of stuff with murder. A lot of these involve murder and abuse, a lot of stuff, a lot of very upsetting things. And if it's not really for you, I understand. Bare minimum, follow the stream. You can come back later. We're gonna watch this one and we're gonna do something else with our day. So this isn't gonna be what we're doing the whole time, but we're gonna get through this one. This is a dense video, but we'll do this and then we'll do something else afterwards. Okay? Be safe. If you're uncomfortable, you can always come back in a little bit. All right? I appreciate anybody who's new. You're more than welcome to follow. Wilbur is a lovely old friend of mine. I guess we've known each other for like over 2 years now. What a time to be alive, dude. Wilbur's great. What a nice guy.
Goes through Jennifer's history of teaching piano and her earlier years of high-level figure skating, which was cut short due to injury.
If you didn't get injured, would you still be doing it? Yeah. Okay. So that's nice. And did you, as far as that, did you do like competition skating or? Okay. And how did you do with that?
I wasn't at the top of the pack, but just the middle average.
Yeah, so that's good though. But you did actually enjoy it. It was more than just going for competition. You enjoyed actually doing it.
I was petrified of the competition.
Okay. All right. Do you have any students right now? Or? No. Okay. And why not?
The students I were teaching, they went to high school and lost interest.
Okay. Yeah, too big for piano. Yeah, I took it in grade school too, but
how's she not questioning the relevancy? It's building rapport.
Like in,
it's just people wanting human connection. It's very natural for people to not question it.
I still remember swans on the lake.
I should move the face cam. You're right. I'm in the way of the
The
shot.
detective then goes through Jennifer's work history as a server before touching on her future plans in education. Jennifer mentions that she plans to go by her parents' wishes and pursue a career in healthcare, at which point the primary strategy is initiated.
She never wanted to do that.
How and why solution. The detective gradually begins to shift the blame away from the suspect and onto another set of circumstances that prompted the suspect to commit the crime. He starts developing a theme that will afford her a psychological justification in doing it, and this theme will be.
I know it looks weird being over here, isn't it strange?
Progresses.
Right side Andy.
Subtle, so that she remains oblivious to the agenda.
Now, if
fear
you could
me,
take any job yourself, I'm not talking about anybody else, but if you could pick for yourself, what would it be?
I'm going to be a piano teacher when I come home. But in the daytime, I'd like to have a simple, maybe like a lab technician job, just work.
Sneak on the right side. What will he do?
and come home and teach piano.
This is an answer the detective was hoping for. Jennifer's preferred
Third on
career
Just
choice
Chatting
is
right
at
now?
odds with what her parents wanted. So he now builds on the concept of the overly
ahead of me?
controlling
By how
parent
much?
and the unfair limitations it causes the child. He then links this concept with the subject of Jennifer's boyfriend and how she was kept from seeing him.
Now, eventually you...
Oh, Hassan's above me. There's no way.
What's happened with that relationship?
I hid it from my parents.
I'll take third.
They didn't say that he was having a boyfriend.
Okay.
And once they found out, they didn't like the fact that he was of mixed race.
Okay.
And they told me to stop seeing him.
Okay. And how did that make you feel?
He's trying to establish a motive right now without her knowing very well. He's trying to emphasize the
He was
the
person who just filled an empty void for me.
what the hell's the word?
So it's
The resentment she has for her parents.
When you broke up, you felt the part was missing? Is that what you're saying?
when they first told me to stop seeing him, stop talking to him, I felt like a part of me was missing, and I fell into a little bit of depression.
Okay. How did they find out?
One day when my mother came to pick me up, she saw me with him. He had dropped me off
Ooh, a hype train.
Dropped you off.
at Pacific Mall, and my mother was coming to pick me up from Pacific Mall.
Okay. And somehow they saw each other, I guess?
Oh, my mother saw me hugging, kissing goodbye.
Okay. That gave it away.
Just
What happened next then?
a little bit.
I tried to bring him home. My mother at first was like,
Yo, I better not see above that level 1 hype train. I'm pissed. I'm gonna be pissed.
they automatically didn't like him
Mm-mm.
for some reason.
Okay.
And that's when they told me to stop seeing him.
Okay. So you were told to stop seeing him. So what happened?
Don't do it, guys. Stop.
At first
Don't
I
give me
stopped
money.
seeing him.
No.
But like I said, I felt really empty and I felt depression, and I started talking to him.
Jennifer then goes on to explain in further detail how she carried on the relationship in secret and how it became more and more of a struggle hiding it from her parents.
Now, how has Daniel taken it when your parents said that you couldn't see him anymore? How did he take it?
What did I just say?
He was hurt.
No, a level 2. No!
And how did you feel?
Stop, I'm drowning in your generosity.
She then goes on to explain that she was living with Daniel at his parents' house for 2 years, while her own parents thought she was studying at a university.
And his parents were, I guess, more liberal than your parents.
His parents, they loved me.
Yeah, okay. And
This
they
is all
recognized
fluff.
that
This
you
is all
loved each
rapport
other?
building right now, so I'm kind of just
Jennifer
talking over
recounts
because
how
it's whatever.
she bought a fake diploma for $500 to show her parents, and the many other avenues.
$500?
To keep the lie going. She eventually gets to the.
That's
day
a
she
huge
was
waste
found
of
out.
money.
How did you end up back home, I guess?
That's way too much money for a fake degree, dude. You could have printed one off the internet.
In the middle of the night, and she
$500.
groggy and forgot what day it was, and so she's like, "Isn't she home?" And I wasn't home.
Okay. She messed up.
All right, I'll let a level 1 and 2 hype train slide. Don't you dare get
Jennifer
it past
then
level
goes on
3.
to
I'm
explain
gonna
the
be.
ultimatum
Don't do
she
it.
was given and the restrictive measures that were put in place so that she wouldn't be able to see her boyfriend.
So how has that felt? Being under
I'm watching
those
you, chat.
guidelines for the last 18 months.
It was okay. Like, it wasn't the best feeling in the world because, I just felt like trapped.
Okay.
But it's what I chose to be with my family.
Okay. And so you made a choice between what?
Living out on my own with Daniel and staying home with my parents.
Did you feel you really had a choice or not?
There was no choice because family always comes first.
Okay. And where do you get that from? Where do you get that belief? Okay. So family's number one?
Yes.
The detective then brings up Jennifer's earlier assertion of being depressed and then affiliates it with the restrictive measures she was living under.
What was the worst the depression got?
I cut
Hmm.
Okay. And when did that happen?
Oh, are there
Where did
boobers
you
in
do-
here?
Where did you cut?
Any boobers?
On my wrist and
What the
once
fuck?
just noticing I'd hide it other places, but
Okay.
never twice in the same spot.
So how many cuts do you have on you?
Now, none.
Done?
How
If you-
dare you?
Okay. And did you want to kill yourself?
Yes.
Jennifer
What?
asserts that she tried to kill herself when she was 19 by overdosing on sleeping tablets. She also states that her self-harm was a distractor from the pain and frustrations she was going through.
My God,
Did you
there's so
ever
many
feel
of you.
that they expected too much of you?
All right, guys, now spam my emotes. Just spam mine. Come on, go ahead. It'll be fun.
Okay. So
It'll
who
be
was it
funny.
compared
Spam
to?
my emotes.
Like classmates, clubmates,
God,
cousins.
maybe this audience is so
And
large.
so some of them have been
It's
successful
absurd,
recently?
dude.
Okay. And what did they say to you?
Wish you'd have been that person.
Okay, so that's pretty hard, right? Hard to take for you?
What I've heard all my life.
Mod spam.
Nothing.
Did you ever feel like, I know you're smart and they believe you're very smart, but did you ever feel you weren't as smart as what they thought that you were?
Bad mod.
Okay, I get that feeling that it's pretty tough to live up to their
Oh, this chat's a little
expectations.
faster than usual, huh?
Okay, like your dad ultimately would like to see you be like a doctor. Those were pretty high standards for anybody.
Yeah. There's a
Not
very
everybody can
long
do that.
amount of rapport.
Okay, but they may have acted like you could have done it no problem.
Okay,
Their
no more email
expectations
spamming.
were
Calm
so
down.
high that few people would be able to reach that expectation.
Everybody,
I'm not just talking about you. I'm talking about anybody.
it's chill time. It's chill time. We're chilling. We're
And it
chilling. We're
started at a
chilling.
young
We're
age.
chilling. It's chill time.
The detective further explores the stresses of living with overly strict
about to get
parents,
good. We
and
can't-
Jennifer
we can't be
explains in
spamming.
further details the way she would cope, which for the most
Slow
part
mode,
was
sure.
lying
Good
about
idea.
her grades and living a double life with her boyfriend.
How did it feel having to lie to them all?
About to get good. He's about to start nailing,
Tell them, but
putting the nail in the coffin.
they always look down in disappointment.
I'm sure there were days when you actually planned that this is the
Sub-goal.
day I'm going to tell them, and then you just couldn't spit it out.
Guys, don't get me to over
The open
2,000 subs
strategy
again.
of the
I
how
would
and why solution
super
has
hate
now been
that.
executed.
Okay.
A connection has been attained, and
I'll
the
be
desired
pissed.
narrative
I'll
established.
be embarrassed.
The next phase of the interrogation is about to commence, which is first set up by a two-step strategy. Step 1 is to induce fatigue. Step 2 is to induce fear.
Probably why he's
Now,
talking so much about
When's the last time you spoke to your dad?
that sort of stuff. It's taking forever.
This morning just to see if my brother had made it into school.
And what have you and your father discussed about this case?
He just asked me if Daniel was behind it,
Okay.
and I told him I don't know 100%, but I don't think he did.
Okay. Why would he ask that?
Because he believes that we still talk. And
Which
that
they do,
he would go to anyone to
'cause
be with me.
She asked him to make his
What do
friends
you
do
think
it, so
about that?
I
kinda
know he comes
awkward.
down, so I don't think he would go to these lengths
family
to be
comes
with
first,
me.
proceeds to kill parents. Yep.
The detective has Jennifer go through the entire incident once more, but unlike the first investigator, offers no reassurance
to.
nor consolation. Jennifer starts fake crying again, yet this time is given no tissues to wipe away her non-existent tears.
Now, do you think there's any reason why they tied you up and didn't tie your parents up?
I'm so upset.
I don't know.
Does that seem odd to you? Why does it seem odd?
It's so real.
I was away up here.
You didn't see that
separated
part.
from you this time.
And does it make sense that they would leave a witness behind?
That was a real tear, guys. I worked really hard to get that
You're
out.
going to kill somebody? Does that make sense?
Yes,
No, just thinking about it. Would it make sense for somebody that was going to kill somebody to leave a witness behind that could describe them?
It doesn't make sense. Not if they knew they
Does
were
that make
there.
common sense for killers?
Nope.
not.
Kill them all or kill them none.
What do you think?
Mhm.
Do you think that was a mistake they made then?
I don't know. They kept saying that they're running out of time, and it just.
It doesn't take a long time to kill someone, though, does it?
I know. I don't know.
Jennifer's dramatics intensify as
They
the
ain't wrong.
discussion of the home invasion continues. She's trying to give off the nonverbal cue that she wants to move past the incident. The detective doesn't respond, but continues to go over the different stages of
I don't
want to
talk about the thing I'm there
jumps
for.
From the beginning
True.
to the end, to the middle,
So
back
true.
to the end, and then back to the beginning again. None of this is for the purpose of information gathering. He is inducing mental fatigue as to diminish Jennifer's critical thinking. This is often done before a direct confrontation, as it can diminish the suspect's ability to consider the long-term consequences of a decision. Jennifer will get stressed and tired.
I would love
not
if when
because
she was given
traumatized by the event being recited,
tissues to
but
cry.
because it's exhausting keeping up such an act when it's not genuine. And
True.
this performance eventually starts to dwindle and becomes gradually less convincing.
How did the conversation end with that?
I would love if when she was given tissues to cry and nothing came out, instead of like she was just like like really, really bad acting.
I heard my
But everything
father-
else
my
is really
mother crying
convincing.
for
It's
my
just when she
father.
tries that fake cry, she's like
I have to go through this again.
Okay. When you went to bed, was your mom home yet?
like the Dane Cook
She just
crying
wasn't
sound.
home, and I went down. I told her I'd be right back. And I went down, I said hi to her, and I went back up to my room.
Okay. Were you injured at all during the whole process?
Not really.
Okay. Not really anything?
Can I slow the chat
The
down?
confrontation
Not really.
setup
It's in
will
slow
now
mode already.
commence.
Wilbur
The detective
sent
employs what is known
a lot
as
of people
the
my way, so
futility
it just
technique.
is how it is
He will
today.
tell Jennifer that he has an
It
abundance
happens.
of resources at his disposal, and even fabricate much of what he asserts. He's indirectly telling the suspect it is useless to resist due to the overwhelming evidence against her.
Now, the reason
Here it comes.
why I'm here today, okay, is that I'm an expert, okay, in what we call truth verification. I talk to thousands of people, okay, and I basically know when somebody's not being straightforward with me, okay. I can tell by the language they use, how they answer the questions, their body
Or the language they
language,
don't
how
use.
they treat the question, that something's wrong here, okay, this doesn't make sense.
The detective then gives Jennifer an 8-minute narrative on police tactics and forensic technology, some of which is embellished, but for the most part true. He then asserts that police are able to use infrared satellite imagery to see the
Can't
occupants
believe it.
inside a household.
He said a police.
This is entirely false.
A person
And basically,
involved with the police
if people are
embellished.
moving
That's
around
crazy.
In a house, it's like
Wouldn't have
an
guessed
X-ray,
that.
okay? And basically, we're able to tell, you know, are those movements, are those actions, that number of people consistent with the story that we've been told?
Police tactics and forensic technology, some of which is embellished, but for the most part true. He then asserts that police are able to use infrared satellite imagery to see the occupants inside a household. This is entirely false.
And basically, if people are moving around in a house, it's like an X-ray, okay? And basically, we're able to tell, you know,
Boomer's
are
got a
those movements,
squeaker
are those
behind me. Be
actions,
careful.
that number of people consistent
I hear
with
some
the story that
squeaking.
we've been told. Are the people in the positions?
Sorry, I gotta. Boomer does this funny thing. He's obsessed with squeaky toys. He likes squeaky toys really bad, and he likes running up and down my hallway with them. But when he gets the actual squeaker out of the toy, he doesn't mess with it any. He like messes with the little thing that causes the squeak, and he'll like rip it out and chew on it, and that's it. That's all he cares about. It's so weird. He's so strange. He laid down. I was like, where'd he fucking go? Just laid down behind me. Oh, no, there he goes. Anyway. Back to crime time, I guess.
That the witnesses are telling us they were in.
I zoned out for a few seconds. Let me
He then asserts
rewind.
that police are able to use infrared satellite imagery to see the occupants inside a household. This is entirely false.
And basically, if people are moving around in a house,
I've never heard of that.
It's like
That
an
makes sense.
X-ray.
That's so funny.
Okay? And
It's
basically,
literally
they're able
trickier.
to tell, you know,
What he's doing, so police are allowed to stretch the truth or even lie in an interrogation room in order to get somebody to say something. You don't have to tell the fucking truth in this interrogation room. You don't have to even talk to the police ever. You can get a lawyer. The lawyer can tell you what to say. You don't have to do any of this shit. What he's doing is he's making up a believable thing. Believable. He's baiting her, basically, yeah. Police are allowed to use deception inside of an interrogation room. This dude's talking like it's a fucking Modern Warfare 2 game. He's like, yeah, we had a thermal scope and we could see through the walls. That's so silly. Connor, thank you for the raid, dude. I appreciate it. Basically, what he's doing here is based off of the information the dad who survived this gave them. They know that she was walking around freely in the house. So what he's doing is he's giving a believable story that the police were somehow able to discern that she was walking around freely without being tied up. Is pretty much what he's trying to do here, without giving away that her dad not only survived. Well, she knows he survived, but she doesn't know that he isn't suffering amnesia, amnesiac, whatever. So that she doesn't know that he's only gotten minor brain damage from what happened. So they're trying to convince her to confess without giving away that her dad basically told them everything in order to get her to confess, because the witness testimonies are not going to go well in court against each other. If anything, they'll favor the defensive side because they'll go after the fact that he has brain damage and they'll go after his relationship with his daughter to invalidate it, pretty much. Connor, thank you so much for the raid. I hope your stream is great. We are watching JCS Criminal Psychology, which is a very sensitive thing. It's true crime. So this guy is literally, this is a police interrogation. So they show police interrogation footage, and there's a lot of really sensitive subjects, including almost always some form of murder or harm to somebody else. So if that sort of thing isn't very comfortable for you, you're more than welcome to leave. You're more than welcome to just follow the stream and come back when we're not. We're going to do something else after this in like 30 minutes when it's over. But if you're interested, I have a criminal justice degree. So this kind of stuff, the environment of an interrogation room and the process is something I studied. It's really cool how this stuff works. So it's been really fun to dissect these. So, if that's up your alley like it is mine, you're more than welcome to stay. We're watching Jennifer's Solution, which is about a girl who was told to leave her boyfriend and enroll back in school, which she was lying about being in, and stay at home and never leave unless for school, because her parents were asking her to be a straight A student and become a doctor despite her not wanting to, or she could do whatever she wanted or get disowned. And get disowned for it. And her solution was to have her boyfriend hire his friends to stage a robbery to kill her parents. And they're slowly catching her in her lie because she was a witness and a victim at the same time, even though she was there for a reason. So yeah, kind of a weird third solution, can't lie. A pretty large stretch between getting disowned and getting forced to stay at home. I don't think many people would come to this conclusion, but that's what's fascinating, is that for some reason, this absolute fucking dumpster of a human being has decided that that is the best route to take for her. For whatever reason. Don't know. That's the crazy thing. Is there's just such a weird rationalization from it. And that's what's crazy. Is people how does somebody come up with that? How does somebody come up with that? You know? But yeah, he is where you guys came at a good time, because he's literally, this has been a lot of fluff and just watching her kind of make up lies and get caught in them. This is literally based off of what's being told now. Like, they're about to fucking lay the hammer on her. So this is exciting. He's basically trying to lie to her about information they have by saying they got it in a certain way to convince her to admit to it, pretty much, even though it was her dad who remembered the whole night, saying that she was fucking involved. So yeah.
Are those movements, are those actions, that number of people consistent with the story that we've been told? Are the people in the positions that the witnesses are telling us they were in? Or are they different? Okay, and if they're different, why are they different is what our question becomes, right? And so at the end of the day, okay, there's so many resources available to me that at the end of the day, I'm going to know if a person's telling me the truth or not.
The detective is now about to initiate the confrontation, but first brings the entire setup full circle by reestablishing the notions of reasoning and rationale. The suspect is fatigued.
Called himself a
and
truth
scared,
verifier,
but
by the
still
way. That
makes
doesn't
the feel
fucking
the detective
exist.
is on her side.
Now, I can tell you that nothing surprises me in this job, okay?
He's twisting the truth in order to catch her, in order to get her to admit to it. So there's kind of a, I forget what it was called. They mentioned it in one of the ones we watched yesterday, where police, whether they know the actual truth or not, they will say, like, we know, like, we already know. And they're like, we already got you, just submit to it. Because whether they have it or not, they want the confession. So they want her to confess on record, so that can be used in court. Because whether they have that evidence depends on the form they have it, but the confession will always outweigh. The confession is a huge difference compared to an eyewitness testimony. So he's deceiving her into admitting to it by basically saying, we already know, you might as well just come forward with the truth. And they'll be like, oh, well, if you cooperate with us, we'll let you know, we'll let your parole officer know if it's a lighter case, or we'll let the judge know and he might give you a lighter sentence. They don't a lot of the time. That's a fucking absolute lie as well.
This earth is capable of making a mistake. Okay? I don't care who they are. I don't care if they're a priest. I don't care if they're
not reverse psychology. Reverse psychology is saying something to get somebody to do the opposite, pretty much.
Given a certain set of circumstances, everyone has the capability, Jennifer, of making a mistake.
Yeah, futility technique. It's basically being like, you might as well give up. We already know what happened. You might as well just admit to it yourself.
When I talk to people is, when
that's
they
what it's
made a
called.
mistake, okay, that's one thing, right? The key is to not keep making the same mistake. And to get that information out and get it off your chest. Okay? You understand what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, from this case, and I can tell you I've spent literally a week on this case, going over information after information, accessing all the sources, speaking to every other expert on the case. And at this point, Jennifer, I know that you've not been truthful with the police, okay? You've not told us everything that you know. Purposely.
It's getting good.
You've spent a considerable amount of time.
Yeah, he's narrowing in. Look at his body language. He's getting closer.
And I can understand why, okay? You've had a tough life. What's happened to you, to me, equates to abuse. And all the stresses that you've had and forced to lie, I can understand why you did it, okay? But you're in another situation here where you're under another tremendous amount of stress. And it doesn't feel good inside, does it? it breaks down the person that you are. Because at the end of the day, you're a good person. I know that. You've got a good heart.
Body language is big in an interrogation room.
You've made mistakes.
He started at the other end of the room to keep
you're involved in this.
keep her distance and make her relax. But the
no
more he
question
presses her,
about
the closer he's getting to close the gap and to cause more pressure for her to admit to
Are you
something.
going to keep making
Very
mistakes?
interesting.
Are you going to go on the route that you've gone on over the years and try to pretend that things happen that never happened? Okay, are you going to not face reality here? We know that you're involved. We've done our homework, okay? We have to resolve that now. Here
Making
today.
shit up, yeah. I do make shit up
I
about
need
the
to
things I
know
studied. You're right.
From you, what really happened.
Also, he
And I know
mentioned
why
it in
this
this
is
video
happening.
about the body language in this room.
You have spent your whole life trying to live up to expectations
Look at
that
this.
you can't make.
What are we at, 107? Look where he is over here. Look. This is when they were talking about just life in general. Just building rapport. This is the beginning of the conversation. 30 minutes in, he's just hanging out, talking to her more. Just watch. This is about when he turns the dial. Look. Right here. This is when he starts pushing it.
And even fabricate much of over
Here,
this house
different person
is now
right? I know that you've not told us
Closer.
a considerable and understanding to me equates
A lot
to
closer.
abuse. You've had and forced to lie.
That's
I
not
can
that's
understand
not
why you did it.
that's not for nothing.
Okay. And it doesn't feel good inside, does it? It breaks down the person that you are. Because at the end of the day, you're a good person.
I'm just
I know
saying
that.
shit though, you're
You've
right.
got a good heart.
I guess the guy who made this video
In
is
this
just saying
case,
shit
though,
too,
you've
because he
made
also pointed it out.
Okay? And you're involved in this. I know that. Okay? There's no question about it. The only question right now is, are you going to keep making mistakes? Are you going to go on the route that you've gone on over the years and try to pretend that things happen that
It was a
never
joke.
happened?
Oh, okay.
Okay? Are you going to not face
Oops.
reality? We know that you're involved. We've done our homework, okay? We have to resolve that now.
Yeah, I actually invented body language, true.
I need to know from you what really happened. And I know why this has happened. You have spent your whole life trying to live up to expectations that you
He's trying
can't
to-
make.
He's trying to
okay?
admit
And it's
the
stressed the hell out
motive.
of you.
They're trying to
You're
get a
a
confession from her
24-year-old woman being treated
and
like a
also
15-year-old,
build her motive
okay?
up.
What, you've never done anything that terrible in your life, but you're
Yeah, Schrodinger's
treated like
asshole
you have.
moment.
You're not being treated like the adult that you are. Yes, you made some mistakes. Big deal.
Channel is JCS
You're not
Criminal
the first
Psychology.
person that has gone out and not told their
Sneeg
parents
is
that
God.
they're dating a guy.
What do you-
because
no,
in
don't
your
do that.
culture, They don't accept it.
That's
I
not healthy.
understand it. I've talked to people
I'm not.
in here that have kept that secret from
I'm
their whole
24
life
and stupid as shit,
from their
so
parents. Okay, so that's not abnormal.
not as
but
stupid
that
as this
puts a lot of stress
24-year-old,
on you,
but
right? That's not easy for you, is it? No. Now, what we need to get down to here today, Jen, is what really happened. You need to tell me what went on.
Sneeg
Because
is
you know
dumb as
who was
fuck
in that
real.
house that night. You do, Jen. There's no question about that, okay?
While remaining
This guy's very
empathetic and
Canadian. There's no
understanding,
question
the detective
about that.
still needs to keep Jennifer's confidence low. He watches for denials and stops them immediately. Letting the suspect deny her guilt will only increase confidence and morale. This needs to be stripped away as much as possible, as early as possible.
There's no question about it, okay?
The focus is kept from the magnitude of the crime and concentrated on the justifications of why someone would commit it.
Yes, their intentions might have been good, but they're not realistic. They're not, Dan, were they?
Look at how fucking close he is.
Ken? Their expectations weren't realistic, were they? You couldn't live up to them.
That chair
could
about
you?
to be at a 45-degree angle. He's leaning in so
Tried
hard.
to. Right? Am I right? And finally you had to bite back, right? You had no other choice. You felt like you had no other options. You thought of everything else, including killing yourself.
Fucking right, man.
This is Canada.
This is
We're in the
Canada.
21st century here.
Okay, what is this, 300?
You cannot take everything
What a
out
weird
of a person. You can
two
have
sentences.
expectations for
What a
your
weird
kids,
two
but you
sentences
can't
next to
expect
each other. He goes, you tried to kill yourself, and then goes, this is Canada. Did I hear that right?
them to do out of a 21st century yourself. You felt like you had no other options. You thought of everything else, including killing yourself. This is Canada.
That's such a weird segue, dude.
We're in the 21st century.
It's
here.
not allowed here.
You cannot
What the
take
hell?
everything out of a person. You can have expectations for your kids, but you can't expect them to do everything the way you want. It doesn't feel good to have secrets, does it?
That's so weird. What a weird like,
You
wow.
have to let me know.
I know there's a
what
time
happened
skip.
here.
It's just funny how it was paced that way. It's just a funny
Okay,
segue.
But you were involved.
I know there is a jump, but
Right?
it's just funny to me.
That's the part we need. Okay? We need to hear that from you because we know you were.
The detective appears to be getting nowhere, so he now lowers the gauge of admission. A confession to a lesser offense is far easier to attain, but once it is attained, can be used to build on the more damnatory elements of the case. You'll also notice that he uses broad terms that infer guilt, yet don't directly accuse Jennifer of murder.
You knew before that night that this was going to happen. I'm going to make that easy on you. That's a true statement, right?
One confession's enough to go into court
You knew
with, so they can
before that
imply the
night
rest.
that they were coming, right?
He's trying to get her to at least
Okay.
admit to conspiring
It's
murder
not worth it anymore.
or conspiring robbery as well.
It's hurting
Either would
you.
work for them.
She seems to be on the cusp of giving some form of admission, yet wants reassurance as to what it means for her own sake. She asks this question 9 times throughout this interrogation. It's one of the few things investigators can't actually lie about, as it's been used countless times in the past to get a case thrown out under misdirection. They can avoid the question, yet they can't afford any false promises with respect to sentencing.
I need to know the details. I can't even say.
Yeah, they can't tell
I
them
can tell you one
something
thing
will happen.
that we
That
already
won't.
know, so you can't change
Don't
that.
bite my nails. Thank you. Bad habit.
I know you did. But it got too far ahead of you, right? You didn't think this far ahead.
This guy's
did you?
sounding more Canadian as the interview goes on. Fascinating.
But once they came in, you couldn't stop it, could you? Could you? Jen? I know. Why didn't they stop for you?
He remembered when he reminded himself
you
it
were
was
part of the
Canada.
planning, right?
Can't she get a lawyer? I'm not familiar with Canadian law, but in the terms of America, it's within your. I don't even know if it's within the Miranda rights. It might be within the Constitution that you have legal representation. Miranda rights, you can request a lawyer, and if you don't have one will be given to you. That's where public defenders come in. Cops don't have to give you the lawyer unless you expressly ask. They don't have to have a lawyer at the ready. They'll try to get you to talk without one because the lawyer ain't gonna allow this conversation. Which is why cops don't like defense lawyers, and 2, don't want to bring the lawyer to the interrogation room because this kind of thing won't happen because they're a deterrent in the interrogation room. So for whatever case you are in an interrogation room for the police, if you're there for questioning, not to give a statement as a witness, have a lawyer. Just get the lawyer. Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him. I'm not telling you to go out and do crimes, but if for some, like say the police are, they picked you up on a crime and you didn't do anything. They just think you did something. They think you're a suspect despite you being innocent. Get the lawyer. It doesn't matter how innocent you think you are. Doesn't matter how innocent you think the cops think you are. Get the lawyer. It might save you jail time, like literally. The cops will use everything you say. It's in the Miranda rights. Anything you say or do will be used against you in the court of law. They'll do it. They will. That's what they do. They take everything from this and they use it. They give it to the prosecution. The prosecution fucking nails your ass and you get thrown in jail pretty much. If you cooperate. I'm not saying don't cooperate, but they'll take a lot of things you do. They'll take a lot of things you do and twist them if they need to. If they're convinced you're the guy.
You have to tell me that part, and then we're going to work through it together. You know what I'm saying? You didn't want this.
She's disappeared, dude.
You have to prove that to me now.
She's just gone.
Because at the end of the day, we have to stop this from happening to someone else. Right? Jen, we're going to have to deal with it one step at a time, okay? I'm going to be honest with you.
Can't make any false promises. Can you plead the fifth? She didn't have to be here.
And then you and I are going to work through this together. The most important part of this whole thing is...
Actually, for this one, probably. Because she took a vow of silence rather than a vow of... whatever the Canadian equivalent is of Miranda rights.
I'm working for your mom.
So
that's my job.
She came in as a suspect, not knowing any better.
At the bottom of this for your mom.
She didn't know any better.
Appealing to compassion isn't necessarily uncommon when the crime is first-degree murder. Yet it can send a mixed message when a justification for the crime was a focus point early on. The detective takes his chance with it, which at first appears to work. Jennifer initially responds in a poignant manner, but you'll soon come to notice that her empathy, alongside her concern, is solely focused on herself.
But we got to start. What happened to me? Well, I don't know at this point, okay? Because I don't know what you're going to tell me other than that you were involved. But I need to hear it. What this all was a last-ditch effort to live your own life, to be your own person, to make your own decisions.
I just found out about this channel yesterday.
Look at all the people around you. Does anyone else have a curfew for 9 o'clock at 24 years of age? You had no choice here, Jen. I know that. And anybody else in your situation would have done the exact same thing. The only thing different is I would say that they'd have done it a lot earlier. They would have looked for a way out. When did you first start planning this? When was the final straw? What was the final straw? So that's what this is all about. Do you want to be a good person here?
Jennifer knows exactly what questions to answer and what ones to ignore. Anytime a question is non-incriminating, she gives a response. Yet when they are incriminating, she remains silent. She is no doubt feeling the pressure, but still very aware of the situation and the potential ramifications of her words.
Okay. And you
Girl's
know
a little
when
too
good
smart
person
for
makes a
her own
mistake,
good. I don't like it.
They have to face that mistake, right? Right? What do you think should happen? I don't know. You're going to prove to people that you know what the right thing to do is. That's what is going to happen. That's what your mom wants right now. She's watching us here. She's wondering, is Jen going to make the right decision here? Is Jen, after all of this, going to come out on top doing the right thing? I'm here for you, Jen. I'm here for your mom. Well, you have to tell. It's one of those situations, you know what? We know that.
Yeah, I wonder how interviews during COVID stuff happened.
But you have to
It's a
be
good
able
question.
to explain to me.
Probably messes with the interrogation room language a bit.
Tell you.
Definitely couldn't do something like that.
Happen to you.
A little too close.
You just have to be brave here.
Masks on
You
in the
have to be
corners.
brave.
Interesting. I actually have thought of that. Over Zoom.
3
Zoom
hours,
police
20
investigation.
minutes, and
Yeah.
26 seconds. The exact amount of time it took for Jennifer to display genuine emotion. The investigator would later testify this was the first moment the suspect was being authentic. He allows her to fixate on whatever
savage.
thought brought this on, and remains completely silent for just under 2
I didn't see what
minutes.
did she do something? Or is she about to do something?
On whatever testified of time. 3 hours,
Interesting.
20 being authentic for
Sorry, could you?
I mean, it's not okay. You killed your fucking mom, but
They were supposed to take you? What? Okay. So they were supposed to take the whole family out?
No, just me.
What went wrong?
The detective now has one foot in the door. It's not an outright confession, but Jennifer has now admitted to planning the home invasion all along. And although she asserts that she was the intended target while her parents were meant to be spared, the information she has now given is enough to place her under arrest. Jennifer is no longer going home after this interview. The detective now presses for more information on the amended storyline. It's essentially step one of day one all over again, but from a more powerful position. He knows she is still lying, and now locks her into as many lies as possible within the new narrative.
What happened? Why did it change?
I don't know.
Okay, what do you know? How come it was supposed to be you? How come it was supposed to be you?
Because I didn't want to be there anymore.
Why not?
Because I was such a disappointment.
Okay, you made mistakes, but nothing that couldn't be corrected. Why was it supposed to be you?
She may feel this way genuinely, but that's not why she had those people break in. It was to kill the parents.
Why did it happen this way then?
I don't know. Everyone could be free from me. I was disappointed in everything.
Okay, but why did it have to happen this way?
Because when I tried suicide, I failed.
What did you want done? How?
We watched Pretending to Be Crazy yesterday. It was really good.
Okay. So who did you get to do this then?
I don't know who he is. I just got his number.
Okay. And what's his number?
I don't memorize it.
She skirts around the questions surrounding her accomplices and gives multiple fake names. She stated that she got the number of the supposed hitman from an acquaintance named Rick, and that she took everything from there over the phone. It becomes apparent she doesn't want to give up, or even mention her boyfriend, so for the time being the detective allows her to recount her amended narrative in the manner she pleases. She gets to the moment she instructed the hitman over the phone about her planned suicide.
I told him that I wanted to be killed.
And did he think that was something crazy?
He said, "Are you sure that's what you want?" And I said, "Yes."
Because I don't think many people get that request. Do you?
No, but that's what I wanted. And he asked me over and over just to make sure I was sure. And I said I was sure.
Okay, so what did you ask him to do then?
Come take me out and then leave.
Okay. Why did they do it when you were, when your parents were there then?
Never alone. In the nighttime.
Okay.
Mom did leave the house at one point, though.
So that meeting you had with Rick, you told him what you wanted?
No, I just said that I wanted, if he knew anybody who could take care of something that I needed, just that I wanted to be killed.
And her dad works, so they definitely...
Did he have the number with him that day?
Yes.
Okay.
There would have been a time frame, at least one parent would have been out of the house. That's really what, you know, the concern was.
So your specific request to him was what?
Come in and make sure you kill me.
So he does come into the house, and you're the obvious only young girl there, right?
Yes.
Okay. When he came to your room,
Yes.
what discussions did you have with the guy that came to your room? The real discussions you had, not what you told us.
Where was the money? And I showed him where the money was.
Okay. But he obviously said, "I'm here to do what you asked."
He never said anything.
What did he say?
Just like hands behind your back.
Did he discuss ways with you how he would do it?
No.
Did you request any way for him to do it?
To make sure no one else was around.
Okay. Why didn't they do it the way you wanted?
I don't know. I asked them to take me and my mom when they took them away.
It doesn't seem to make sense.
I know, it doesn't make sense to me. Because I was supposed to be.
Okay. Can you sit up for a minute, Jen?
You're full of shit.
Okay, look at me.
The detective wants an outright confession, and the second direct confrontation is about to commence.
Liar.
Only this time it will be a lot more aggressive, as he doesn't have to worry as much about the suspect locking up or requesting counsel. She is under arrest and going to jail after this interrogation, no matter what.
Yup.
Look at me. Okay. What I do
Requesting
believe
counsel is asking for a lawyer.
is that you went to somebody. And I do believe that night you paid them the $2,000. But what's not true is it was never for you. Okay, Jen, no. Okay, you went to this person and you asked them to do a job. And the job was for your parents. You asked them to do this job on your parents, Jen. Okay, let's be truthful. Okay, nobody's going to come there and get the wrong people. If you wanted to kill yourself, Jen, you're not going to pay somebody $2,000 to do it.
I couldn't do it myself.
Okay,
So.
but there's other ways, okay? And if that was going to happen, they could have taken you outside and done it anywhere. It wouldn't matter, would it? If you really wanted to die, all they would have had to do is pull up beside you in a car and shoot you. You made a specific request, and the job was for your mom and dad. Okay, nobody's going to come in there and do the wrong job. Okay, nobody's going to do that. They came, you paid, and they did what they were supposed to do. And the plan was for your parents. Okay, Jen, you have to be honest with it. This is the only thing that's in contention.
They didn't really
here.
do it that well. The dad
Okay?
survived.
You made the mistake, okay? Everybody understands. Everybody in this police department feels sorry for you. I can tell you that right now, okay? Because they've seen what you're going through. It's so obvious, okay? That all this tension they put out, basically this is like a volcano, all right? And at one point it was just too much and you erupted, okay? And you made a bad decision, okay? And once you hired this guy, there was no turning back. Now, in the original story, you said that you hid your cell phone. Okay? If it was for you, you wouldn't have hid your cell phone. That would have never happened. So it's in conflict.
It's not hidden. It's just I put it there naturally.
Okay.
It's what I naturally do.
Okay, but you said on tape
She said
that
she
you
hid it.
did it there, and
Yup.
that they didn't know about it.
Uh-huh.
That's your language, not mine, Jen. All they wanted was so much success out of you, they were not even looking at you as a person. They were
Which is-
looking for a success story.
Which is fucked up.
Instead of just saying, whatever Jen wants is what's good for us. Whatever she's happy with. As long as she's happy in her life, I'm happy with it. If she wants to work at Eastside Mario's for the rest of her life, that's fine. If she wants to be a piano teacher, that's great. If she wants to continue figure skating, that's
It's
wonderful.
fucked up for parents to
Why
demand
would
so much,
somebody
so
shoot someone
specifically
they
and
didn't
such
have
high
to
amounts of
shoot?
success
I
and
don't
put that
know.
much
I can't
pressure on
figure
her
that out.
child,
And
but
actually not shoot
it's not
the
a
person they're supposed
justification to
I don't know.
Kill
I'm
him.
trying to figure it
No.
out.
Okay, why didn't you tell us this that night then?
What did she say?
Because I'm scared.
Scared of what? Telling.
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure that out.
Why would somebody shoot someone they didn't have to shoot?
I don't know. I can't figure that out.
And actually not shoot the person they're supposed to shoot?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure it out.
Because
Why didn't you tell us this that night then?
Because I'm scared.
Scared of what? Telling the truth?
Yes. That I wanted to die. But
Okay,
instead,
listen, if you wanted to die, you would tell us everything because it wouldn't matter. Jen, if you really wanted to die, you would tell us everything because it doesn't really matter. Right?
It does matter because the wrong person got hurt. And my dad is suffering.
I appreciate that's what happened in the end, but that's what was supposed to happen. Okay? The good thing about this is your dad did live.
Interviews
And that went
long.
against the plan.
In 4 hours.
If you could make this decision over, you would change it.
Detective is
Okay?
patient as shit.
You would change it. Right?
Of course. If I knew he was going to get hurt, of course I would.
Jen, you knew who was going to get hurt. That's the whole issue here. Okay, that's the whole issue here.
Not even talking about it. She doesn't even mention her mom at all.
For your parents, right?
She said the wrong person got
That's all I
shot.
need to hear.
I mean,
No.
she didn't sing
Yeah.
mom or anything.
You did.
No, and this is
So
not
much
gonna go
resentment.
anywhere because
Won't even mention her mom by
I wanted
name.
them to kill me.
Tell me what happened.
I told you what happened.
Okay. All of it.
You did.
Okay. All you have to do is tell me right now that, Bill, yes, I made a mistake.
So yes, I made a mistake.
This plan was for my parents.
The detective gets no
That
further
immediate
admission from this
lockup,
point forward.
she
so
went
he leaves
straight-
Jennifer
went-
alone for 3 minutes to play with her hair
What?
before he comes from the
Plan was for
Watch
my
how she immediately goes down. Locked
The
up
detective gets no
immediately.
further admission from this point forward.
That's
so he
crazy.
leaves Jennifer alone for 3 minutes to play with her hair before he comes back and charges her with first-degree murder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I need you to listen
Plotting a murder.
closely,
That's
okay,
first
Jen?
degree.
At this point in the investigation, okay, I'm going to be arresting you for murder. Okay? Also attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Do you understand that?
True.
You just have to tell me if you understand those charges. Just say yes or no. Yes. Okay. So what we're going to do right now is, do you have your own lawyer?
No.
No? Okay. Do you have a lawyer you would like to speak to that you know of?
No.
Okay. Would you like to speak to duty counsel?
I just want to talk to someone who can help me understand.
Okay, so who would that be?
Well, yeah. Now he talks about the lawyer because he got everything he needed. She could have.
So
She could have
you have a
requested a lawyer at
lawyer?
any point during this and didn't.
You were on my side. And I was,
Okay, I am on your side. What would you like to do?
No, I'm not.
I don't have any idea what to do.
Do you want me to call duty counsel for you?
Okay.
Okay. Or is
That'd
there
be
any
so
other
much
lawyer
more
that you would like?
cruel.
Okay. So at this point, you wish to speak to duty counsel then?
Duty counsel is
Okay.
the Canadian
What I would
equivalent
have
of
you
a
do
public
is actually
defender, I'm
empty all your
guessing, where
pockets on the table
somebody
here.
is assigned to you as
I'm
their
going
as your
to make
defense.
sure that they're making a call to duty counsel, and we'll line that up, and you can speak to the duty counsel in private, okay?
Third degree murder. I'm trying to remember. Third degree is a little weird. Second is crime of passion. And third is kind of like manslaughter. But manslaughter is if something happens and there was no way of telling. It's just somebody ends up dying due to some unforeseen circumstance. Third is just you straight up completely didn't read the signs that this was dangerous, and you killed somebody without properly deciding that what was happening was probably a bad idea. Gross negligence, yeah. There was no plan. First, the thing that separates first degree from everything is that there was clear previous intention before the crime was committed. So this is why she's getting charged with first degree, is because she literally just admitted to them that that they were supposed to go to the house, right? She admits to being there or wanting them to show up, you know? So that is first degree. That is showing intention ahead of time. Second degree is mostly crime of passion. It's in the moment. You know, some emotions got the better of you and you ended up killing somebody. It's a little, I mean, that's a lot, but that is a degree of murder. And third is basically some form of negligence where harm came to a person that resulted in death and you pretty much could have known better and didn't do anything. You didn't do anything on pretty much without, like, yeah. Manslaughter is more accidental. So the third degree is, there is a it's more like, yeah, third degree is really, really weird. Third degree is really weird because it lays towards manslaughter. You don't see a lot of third degree murder charges. Because it can kind of go into manslaughter, because manslaughter is usually accidents that lead to death, right? That aren't the intention. The result is not, like, you know, car crashes and stuff. Like, you don't try. That's an accident. It doesn't. Somebody might die, but that's not. Yeah, it's like endangering somebody. No, third degree is like endangering somebody. Yeah, it's like there's an endangerment, and you didn't look into it enough to really know that that's probably a bad idea, and the result is somebody died because of it, and you were already aware that it could have been dangerous, pretty much. Like, you are okay with this person being in danger, pretty much, and it results in their death, and you knew that this would be a problem. Yeah. No, a lot of vehicular accidents that lead to death are manslaughter. Difference between homicide and genocide. Genocide is the killing of a large group of people. Homicide is a singular killing of one person. So murder and homicide are similar. Yeah. Yeah. It's like third degree is like if you knew the situation that is about to occur is going to be endangering. You didn't really expect it to go the way it did, but they died. Is pretty much the way it is. Because the difference between third degree and manslaughter is that there needs to be, the person needs to have already been aware that there is some harm involved. Yeah. Stu keeps asking me to play the video. I'm just going to sit here and not play it for like 4 more minutes just to piss you off. Because I'm petty. So, appreciate that. I was busy talking to people who had questions and aren't just sitting here to watch the video. You can go to the time frame on the video on your own time if you're that upset that I'm pausing during my own stream to talk to my audience. But yeah, you go ahead, go pull up the video yourself. It's at 129.19. It's called Jennifer's Solution. It's on JCS. Go ahead, go over there and do it yourself. You really give that much of a fuck about the video? I'm answering your question. The fuck, weirdo. It's not that the action committed, they knew going into it that it would cause death. They knew the action going into it is dangerous or harmful, and the person ended up dying. So manslaughter, typically the person didn't know any better. Like, it's accidental is usually how it goes. So in a situation of a third degree, which once again, not very common, it's hard to prove it. Someone redeemed an ad. I know. We won't do that yet. We're gonna finish this first. No, nobody in a car knows they're gonna, do something like that. A lot of vehicular problems are manslaughter because the intention of driving isn't to harm somebody. So the idea of somebody getting harmed, knowing that there's a harmful situation being occurred and resulting in a death, is third degree. If you're in a car and you have an accident and somebody hits something and dies from it, or like you hit somebody and they die, that is manslaughter, because unless you drove specifically to find this person and hurt them for whatever reason. But if you just get in a car accident and it results in death, that's manslaughter, because you know, whether you like it or not, somebody ended up dying, but you didn't exactly cause that, like, intentionally. The intention and the situation around it, the context of the situation is important between manslaughter and third degree. Third degree, once again, is very weird. It's very hard to throw up. A lot of things just end up going to manslaughter anyway. Yeah. The cops try to give the suspect the worst sentence they can. Well, yeah. So, typically with stuff like this, they try to assume first degree, but the more context that appears, the more, I mean, like for this situation, you know, there's clear intention to kill here. So they're trying to find the first degree motive. Yeah. How long can you get for manslaughter? I think so. There's not only is there third degrees to murder, I believe there is third degrees to manslaughter as well. That also include conscious negligence. So I think first degree manslaughter can be a minimum of 10 years. It also is very dependent on the state. I believe in Missouri, minimum sentencing for first degree manslaughter is 10 years. It's very state dependent, but you can definitely Google it wherever you're at. How long can you get for attempted murder? Probably similar to manslaughter, if not more. You can definitely Google all of these. Seriously, I'm not super keen or super knowledgeable about like these very specific ones. Will her boyfriend get charged? Absolutely. Conspiracy to murder. Whether he was there or not, he is a connecting piece to the 3 people who actually showed up. So what's going to happen is she'll probably get first degree because she premeditated this, wanted it to happen. She'll get first degree, everything he charged her with already. First degree, attempted murder because the dad survived, and conspiracy to commit murder. She'll get all 3, definitely going to be guilty. The other 3 will get conspiracy to murder, all the same. All of them will get the same. The boyfriend, I don't know. The boyfriend might just get conspiracy to murder. Only because it seems like he is loosely involved. Yeah, third degree, intention to harm but not kill. Manslaughter is no intent to harm but ended up killing. Yes. That's a good way to put it. It's a very simple way to put it. Guys, I understand there's like weird burning hypotheticals, but I don't know. All I know is very large details. I don't know very specific situations towards specific murder charges. I know, you know, I know ways murders are seen and ways they're charged. You can definitely Google stuff to learn specifications behind them, but seriously, go for a little Google on that sort of thing. There are 3 degrees to manslaughter. I can't remember specifically the differences. I know one of them is, you know, it was dangerous but didn't think anybody would get hurt. One of them is not knowing any at all, didn't know any better, didn't know anybody was going to get hurt. Somebody got hurt and died anyway, but you had no clue what would have happened. Another one being, you know something could have been dangerous, but somebody got hurt and got put in harm's way and it ended up in death. So go for a nice little Google. It's, you know, there's a lot of information on it, but it's very complicated. But I don't have all the answers because I'm not an expert. I just studied it and have the smallest degree of expertise towards it. So, I mean, I wish I knew more, but yeah, definitely. If you have more questions about the specifications, give a nice little Google towards it. I guarantee you, if you're interested in asking me, you'll learn some more stuff. It's really cool.
Called the duty council, and we're just waiting for them to call back. Okay. Need a drink of water or anything? What's that? I do have to go.
I paused for way too long. It's like 2 minutes left with
I'll
this.
come back and speak to you. Okay. Well, we got to take care of the lawyers. Okay. That's the priority right now. Okay.
The next time Jennifer would see this detective would be when he testified at her trial. It began on the 14th of March, 2014.
She looks
and
like a
Jennifer
King of the
pled
Hill
not
character.
guilty to all charges. Her interrogation tape was one of the more
Not
damning
guilty.
pieces of evidence put forward by the prosecution. Yet the most damning were the 116 text messages between her and her boyfriend in the 6 hours leading up to the murder. They thought using burner phones to communicate would cover their tracks, yet forensics were able to uncover the entire discussion just 1 month after the incident.
Duh.
They spoke in detail about how the crime would be carried out, and it was enough to convict them both, as well as each of the intruders who were linked to the crime via DNA evidence and witness testimony. They were all found guilty of first-degree murder and given a life sentence without the possibility of parole for 25 years. Jennifer Pan is now 34 years of age. She is currently serving her sentence at the Grand Valley Institution for Women in Kitchener, Ontario. She will be first eligible for parole in November of 2035.
What about your dad?
He drives a Mercedes and he loves that baby.
Is that right?
What was that? That was funny.